Congratulating you on your election as Speaker. I know that you will reside in that chair and uphold the best traditions of the Speaker of the House of Commons. But I also want to thank you for the work that you have done, and I know you will continue to do, in showing a concern for the health and well-being, including the mental health, of members of this House and staff across Parliament. Thank you for all that you have done. Mr. Speaker, I've been in this House for over 22 years. And this is the largest number of Conservative members of Parliament I have seen in this House. And I would like to congratulate my right honourable friend for leading our party to an overwhelming victory. One thing now is certain. The lobby is going to be rather crowded. But may I just personally say it's going to be a rather welcome change to see all Conservative MPs going through the same lobby. I hope my right honourable friend will also forgive me if I just reflect that this was the result that was supposed to happen in 2017. But of course back then people still thought the Labour Party was supporting Brexit. 2 years on, they saw that was a sham, a pretence, and a betrayal of millions of traditional Labour voters. And those Labour voters have now elected Conservative members of Parliament. This victory brings with it a huge responsibility, because they have put their trust in us, and as my right honourable friend has said, we must work flat out to repay that trust. Not just government ministers, but every single one of us on these benches. And of course that means delivering Brexit. It means delivering on the manifesto commitments on schools, on the NHS, on infrastructure, which is why the legislation and commitments in the Queen's speech are so important. But it means more than that. It means truly building a country that works for everyone. And that has always been the ambition of the Conservative Party, because we are a party that is at our strongest when we appeal across the board to people regardless of age, gender, ethnicity, sexuality, background, income, where they live. That is the true Conservative Party. And so we must deliver on Brexit and those manifesto commitments, but we must go further. We must ensure that every decision we take in this House, we remember those communities who have lent us their vote. That means things like taking forward the modern industrial strategy, ensuring prosperity across the whole country, and I welcome the commitments in the Queen's speech on science and spending on science and on research and development. It also means remembering those communities when we're negotiating trade deals around the world, including with the European Union, because good trade deals will be ones that protect the jobs of those who have put their faith in us, but more than that, bring good, new, better jobs here to the UK. And isn't it interesting to note, we haven't actually, so far, I think, in this debate, had a reference to the fact that it is yet again under a Conservative government that we have seen employment go up. Good trade deals. Good trade deals also protect the rights of workers and those who have put their trust in us. And I welcome the commitment to an employment bill in the Queen's speech, which I trust is going to not only enshrine but enhance workers' rights in this country. And good trade deals also ensure that we maintain the high standards we have in this country in areas like the environment. And the Environment Bill is going to be a very important piece of legislation as it's set out in this Queen's speech. So we do need to deliver on all of these issues for people, and particularly for the communities who've lent us their vote, because these are the communities who felt most left behind by globalisation. These are the communities who all too often have borne the brunt when rights and standards are not protected. So we have got a very real job to do in terms of delivering for those people who have put their trust in us. And of course, we need, as we do this, as we deliver Brexit and look ahead to the end of next year, we have to deliver that trade deal with the European Union by the end of December 2020. There are those who say it cannot be done. I do not believe that. I have every confidence that it can be done. But we must do more than that, because by the end of December 2020, we have to have agreed and ratified, such that it will come into operation on the 1st of January 2021, a new treaty on security with the European Union. Again, I have every confidence it can be done, because a significant amount of work has already been put into these issues, and the elements of that are there, agreed with the EU in the political declaration. So there's work to be done, but it can be done, and it must be done to that timetable. Another issue, of course, which people across the UK will look to us to deliver on, are the social injustices that still persist. I welcome very much in the Queen's speech the reference to the domestic abuse bill. And I'm grateful to the Prime Minister for the speed with which he responded to me when I pressed him on this matter earlier this week. Instantly, indeed it was. That bill, which has cross-party support, is genuinely going to improve the lives of victims and survivors of domestic abuse. I also welcome the reference to reform of the Mental Health Act, although, yet again, I'm bound to say that I would have preferred a more full-blooded commitment to a new Mental Health Act. The review of the current Mental Health Act that we had raised so many issues about how we deal with and how we treat people with mental health problems. It's not just about resources. It's about the attitude and way in which people are treated. And if we put those changes into place in a new Mental Health Act, we will genuinely be bringing significant improvements to people in this country with mental health problems. But there are other social injustices we need to look at too. One of the things that underpins social injustice often is a feeling among the powerful that there are others in our society who they can treat as second-class citizens. I think one of the worst examples of this, or it brought it really home, was the way in which the girls who were being sexually abused and young boys being sexually abused and groomed in Rotherham were treated by the authorities in that place. It was as if these were people who did not count, but they did count. And we must always remember that every member of our society, every resident of the UK counts. It is that sense of ensuring equality that lay behind the work that was done on social housing. And I note the commitment the government has made to bringing forward a social housing white paper. I think it is very important that we continue with that work to ensure that the voice of those in social housing is heard. And then another injustice we need to address was highlighted by the race disparity audit. The race disparity audit was groundbreaking work by a Conservative government. It shone a light on injustice that too many experience and too few are willing to acknowledge. And it is important. We can't address all of the issues that were raised, all of the findings, immediately. But we do need to ensure, and I want to ensure, that the government does not abandon the work on the race disparity audit. Because if we do take action across the board, then we will truly be creating one nation. Now, speaking of one nation, my right honourable friend has on a number of occasions expressed his desire to unite the country. Of course, that won't happen if the United Kingdom is torn asunder by those who want to ignore the ties of family, of history, of shared endeavour, of shared together over the years. My own view is very simple. I think that breaking up the United Kingdom is to the benefit of no one and the detriment of all. And I'm grateful to the right honourable gentleman for the reference in the Queen's speech to the integrity, the importance the government attaches to the integrity of the United Kingdom. And I look forward to the work that I know the government will be doing to ensure that that is demonstrated. I will give way once.
I thank the former Prime Minister for giving way, and she spent a lot of her speech speaking about the debt that her party and her successor owes to those who lent her party their support. But of course, she will know better than anyone that it is a true leader and a true statesman that acknowledges those who did not vote for them and that work for them. So I turn to the result in Scotland, where the SNP secured 45% of the vote. Nobody denies Nobody denies this Prime Minister's right to govern on 43% of the vote. So how can she turn round to the people of Scotland and say we cannot have our say on our own future after the general election that we just had in Scotland?
Can I just say to the honourable gentleman that, as he will have heard from my excellent honourable friend, the member for West Aberdeenshire and Kilcarn, 55% of people in Scotland voted for parties that support the Union of the United Kingdom. And it's all very well, I heard the right honourable gentleman, the member for Ross, Skye and Lochaber, and he made this great plea at the end about how an independent Scotland was going to be in the European Union. We all know an independent Scotland will not be in the European Union. We're not allowed to be in the European Union. So what the Scottish nationalists are saying to people in Scotland is simply not true. I want to raise, Mr. Speaker, I want to raise one final issue, which is referred to in the Queen's speech, in the reference that is made to the UK's place and influence in the world. And I note that there is going to be a full review of international policy, building, I have no doubt, on a number of reviews that have taken place in recent years and work that has been done. But it is very important that we look at this issue at the moment. Of course, global Britain has never gone away. We always have been a global Britain. We have, over recent years, continued to play an important role in international fora on issues such as climate change. We've played a key role in dealing with terrorism, with modern slavery, with people smuggling. We've enhanced our presence in key areas, east of Suez and the Asia-Pacific region. And, of course, we brought together action across the world when we found that a chemical weapon had been used on the streets of the UK by Russia. But at the same time, we have seen internationally the international fora and also the rules-based international order on which we have depended for decades coming under significant threat. At the same time as we have seen the atmosphere and discourse of politics in the UK become more acrimonious, so across the world we've seen a change too. And what we've seen is an emphasis on absolutism and confrontation rather than compromise. And we have a decision to take as to where we sit in that, whether we side with the absolutists or whether we actually continue to be a country that believes it is right that countries will come together internationally, restrain their own demands in order to seek agreement for the greater good of all. And we've also seen some interest from some in stepping back from a defence of democracy, human rights and the rule of law. We have to decide whether to look inward or whether to continue to play a role in defending those values. I believe we should, because that is what global Britain is all about. And it is important that we continue to uphold those values around the world. Now, of course, this may bring into the spotlight our relationship with the United States of America. That is a special relationship that we must nurture and preserve. It is in the interest not only for us and the United States, but also for the world that that special relationship is maintained. But it's not a one-way relationship. We don't just accept every position the US takes. We consider our own interests, and when we believe and we disagree with them, then we tell them clearly that we disagree with them. But I think, as we have seen over the last 3 years, this House focusing so much on Brexit and focusing so much internally, now we have the opportunity. We can set that to one side and we can move on to being the global Britain that my right honourable friend has spoken about and that every Conservative member on these benches espouses. A Britain that is taking its place in the world. A Britain that is recognising the need to reform the international rules-based order, playing a role, not just a role in that, but actually playing the leading role in that reform. And a United Kingdom that stands up for the values that we share, the values of democracy, rule of law, human rights. A United Kingdom standing proud in the world. I believe the world needs the United